Welcome back. All right, so we're going to do Panik Index today. Panik Index a little bit different. So there are going to be the fans that are excited about this season, so you've got the happy face for that. The Panik Index for fans that right now could very well be a little bit on edge. You have down here Cthulhu, Destroyer of Worlds, for the teams that we might qualify as like tire fires. If anybody's in there, and this is the thing, I always do this, and I never know where I'm going to put everybody until I start the video. And then there's the dude over here. So these are magnets that I made with stickers that I got from Geeky Jerseys. So that's why I've got the Geeky Jerseys one up here. They're the ones that I've got a lot of jerseys from for the Entertainment Guy channel, and that way you tune into that channel, you might still see me wearing a jersey and go, oh, so he's just talking about TV shows and football and baseball. That's fine. He's still wearing jerseys, so story checks out. But for this one, for the dude, this is your fan bases that aren't really concerned with this season. They're more looking forward to, number one draft pick. That'll be fine. Whatever happens, happens. It's fine. It's not a big deal. There's not a lot of pressure, right? So no pressures over here. Excited's here. Excited for the wrong reasons is right here, where it is the Panik part of the index. And then down here is it's tire fire. So we'll start off with Arizona. Arizona is difficult because to me, I think there's a good reason to feel somewhat panicked with the way things are going. I can't put them in the tire fire because there's a plan here. Bringing in the bad contracts, trading out Oliver Ekman-Larsson, bringing in more draft picks tells you they're worried about next year. Now, I could put two Arizona logos up here. I could put one up right here because of the uncertainty surrounding the long-term health of the franchise. But this is based on right now what the team's doing, and I don't think there's any pressure. I think everybody's chill right now because if they get the number one draft pick, great. If they don't make the playoffs, well, that's fine. There's a whole bunch of draft picks in there. And if they end up going on an unforgettable run somewhere during the season and make the playoffs, well, that'd be gravy. So I don't think there's any pressure in Arizona. Ottawa. I think there's building excitement in Ottawa, so I'm going to put it right about there. So not quite at the awesome, this is great. But with Ottawa, I think the expectations have gone up. I think the hopefulness has gone up. And it rightfully so. This is a talented young team that could take that next step this year. While the Atlantic has 3 or 4 very good teams, there's a possibility one of those 4 teams drops out. And Ottawa might be the one to grab that spot, especially if Montreal loses Kotkaniemi. If they don't have depth down the middle, Ottawa could really jump up and surprise some people this year. Vancouver. Vancouver, I'm going to put them right in the middle because it depends on the fans. It depends on the day, the time of day. Is it cloudy out? Well, then everything sucks. Is it partly sunny? Well, then things are probably pretty... it just feels that random sometimes. So it's right in the middle. If this team gets off to a slow start, the Panik Index after the season starts, you'll see them next to Panicked. They can't afford to get off to a slow start this year because the expectation is they're going to get better. And if through, say, the first 10 games, things aren't looking better, there could be a lot of panic in the Canuck fan base over perception of how much time they put in and this team's not turning it around. It could get ugly. Dallas. For me with Dallas, it's hard for me to say if there's a lot of pressure. I'm kind of wanting to put them next to Vancouver for different reasons. It feels like there's not a whole lot of expectations on Dallas. And yet, if Dallas, much like Vancouver, gets off to a slowish start, they could end up down in this region as well. So I'm gonna leave them here, but there's part of me thinking you could almost put them under the dude because I don't know how much pressure there is on them this year. It'll be interesting to see what the attendance is like in Dallas, what the enthusiasm is like for the team. So should be an interesting show. Anaheim. There's no worry in Anaheim. There's no concern in Anaheim. This team doesn't, have a great season, that's fine. They'll just keep an eye on guys like Zegras and other young players and make sure they're progressing. As long as the young guys are progressing, that's really the key thing for Anaheim. It's not so much any of the rest of it. It's, are they progressing? Yes? Well, then you're good, right? New York Rangers. The Rangers, okay, I'm going to put them closer to happy than Vancouver or Dallas, because I think fans should rightfully be somewhat excited for the upcoming season. But I also get that there are Ranger fans who aren't happy with some of the moves made in the offseason. The Buchnevich trade comes to mind. The Rangers are counting on a lot of their young players taking that next step, and at least one of them will. Maybe two of them do. And if three of them do, if it's Kravtsov and Lafreniere and Kakko, then they could very well be a surprise playoff team. But for the Rangers, I don't know how much pressure there is on them to necessarily make the playoffs and end up doing something or just make the playoffs. But I would think there's more reason to be excited about this upcoming season than upset about it. The Islanders. The Islanders, I'm going to put them next to the Rangers. I think that while they're taking their sweet time announcing players being signed that we believe are signed, Paul Mary, I'm looking at you. I don't think there's any reason to worry even if they don't sign those players, because you got Barry Trotz behind the bench. At the very least, they should be a playoff team. And I'm not going to bet against them being a playoff team, and we'll see how things go for the New York Islanders this year. But I don't think there's any reason to panic yet. Winnipeg, I'm going to put right here with Vancouver and Dallas. Much the same reason. Winnipeg fans could be very excited if it's a good start, and they could be very panicked if it's not. The Winnipeg Jets, the way that they lost that series to Montreal, that was tough. And then if to start this season they get off to a rough start and they find themselves looking up at other teams in the playoff position, say at the end of August or end of October, mid-November, there could very well be some panic, and that's where Paul Maurice's job may be on the line. Washington, coming out of another first round loss, that's a tough call because they're pretty good during the regular season. But I can't say they're like exuberantly happy right now. I'll put them next to the Islanders and the Rangers, sure. But I'm not going to have them right up here where everything's peachy keen. But they kept Ovechkin. They kept the band together. No major changes. There was going to be, but then they got Vanacek back from Seattle. So Washington should be relatively happy. Vegas. For Vegas, right here, same idea. That if their goaltending has any problems this year, immediately everybody's going to say Marc-Andre Fleury would have saved that. Marc-Andre Fleury wouldn't have had this record. Marc-Andre Fleury was better. And then if on top of it, if Fleury gets off to a good start for Chicago, look out. If Chicago gets off to that good start with Fleury and Vegas has problems out of the gate, there will be some people jumping off that fandom and not very happy, and people within that fandom will likely be quite vocal about things if Vegas has trouble and if goaltending is perceived as being part of the reason why. Toronto I'm going to put here because we have witnessed a lot of interesting moves being made by Kyle Dubas. Are they better? The answer is I don't know. I have them fourth in the division, right? My season preview, I have them fourth, which would mean I'm saying, no, they're probably not better this year than last year. And for Toronto fans, there's only a limited amount of time to make this work before that young nucleus either gets broken up via the team deciding to break them up or the players decide this isn't working and one of them wants to move on. So for Toronto, there's a lot of pressure on them. And I'm not sure how much happiness there is in Leafland right now. But yeah, so Toronto I'm putting as close to on the panic meter. Buffalo I'm putting right down here with Cthulhu, Destroyer of Worlds, until they get the Eichel situation settled. They have to. Whether it's him coming to camp and working it out, whether it's the NHL and the NHLPA mediating and making this work. And word has come out that Eichel's had meetings with the NHL and the NHLPA, involved with Sabres and everything. So there's some attempt to mediate this and fix this. But until that happens, Buffalo, it's kind of a mess. You've got the guy that you got in 2015 and said, this is our guy. And now he wants out, and it's just a mess. Starting a rebuild when you haven't finished a rebuild, it's not great. Colorado, I'm going to put them right here because the expectations are high. The excitement level, I think, is high. But are there reasons to wonder about that for Colorado? Sure. Kemper should be an upgrade over Grubauer. Can he stay healthy? There's a lot of things here that are going right for Colorado, being Stanley Cup favorites. No argument with that. But we'll see. We'll see where Colorado ends up. Columbus. So basically, I just pulled these all off the board in random order. Columbus. No. I don't think there's any pressure on Columbus. I think if Columbus finishes outside the playoffs and gets the number 1 draft pick, I think everybody's happy. I think if they get a top 5 draft pick in this year's deep stacked draft, they're happy. So Columbus I put as one of those teams that's very chill, just the dude, just, again, Big Lebowski, fantastic movie. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that has to go on the board. So the dude and Cthulhu, again, thanks to Geeky Jerseys. But Columbus, I don't think there's any pressure there. I think trading off Seth Jones, I still think that's a deal that could be better for them than people might think. But again, they're not looking at playoff search this year. At least I don't think they are. But they've proven me wrong before, and we'll see if they do it again. Carolina, this is where things are kind of odd. I'm going to put them here. I want to put a team up here. I do. I want to put a team as just everything's great. But Carolina's had a lot of turnover. We don't know how that's going to go. So while I think there's some excitement about Carolina, right now I think it's maybe a little bit tempered by players they lost, changes to the chemistry on the team and not knowing how that's going to work out. And I think it's taken a team that was arguably one of the better dark horse candidates for a Stanley Cup and kind of turned them into more of a toss-up in terms of their contender status. So we'll see. But again, if everything falls their way, Carolina will end up in contender status. Chicago. I don't know that the fans necessarily are going to go the other way. If Chicago has a rough start, I don't think fans are going to be too upset with that. But I do think expectations are raised. So it is possible. It is possible that, again, the end of November maybe, middle of November, things aren't going well. There may be pressure on Jeremy Colleton. There may be pressure on the team in general to fix this because you went out and you got Fleury. It's the last year of Fleury's contract. Fleury with the idea that you're going for a Stanley Cup. You got Duncan Keith's contract gone. You can bring in Seth Jones. Now you've got Jones on the team. Fleury. The expectations are pretty high. So it could go either way with Chicago. Calgary, I think, honestly, is closer on the Panik side. And because when you look at it, there's a lot of changes to be made. Now, Blake Coleman could be a huge pickup for them. Absolutely. But the other moves, I really think that the core, which we were looking at going to the offseason, and there were questions about whether or not that core could win, whether or not they might have to make some hard decisions with the core, and they really haven't made hard decisions other than we're just going to keep them together, which if Calgary gets off to that good start, gets themselves into the playoffs, and starts trending in the right direction, it's going to look genius. But again, start of the year, it's going to be interesting. Boston. Honestly, I don't think there's a lot of pressure in Boston in general. I'm kind of tempted to throw them right here. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I'm a little over halfway. I may end up having to push some up into that region or move this down. Yeah, maybe move that down. So Boston, they do still have some of the same problems, right? So they go out, they get Taylor Hall, everything's great. And then what happens in the offseason? Well, David Krejci decides he's going to play in the Czech Republic. So they still have that second line center problem. The second line center problem is an issue. And so I want to, again, another team I want to put up here, but I can't. Philadelphia. I don't know that I know Philadelphia's redone the blue line, but I think they're still close on that Panik because goaltending. You bring in Martin Jones, right, to play with Carter Hart. Hart's coming off of a poor year, so's Jones. So for a team that they can score, a team that has the offense, the problem's been keeping the puck out of their net. They made some interesting decisions in the offseason in regards to that goaltending and that keeping the puck out of their net. We'll see how it goes. Pittsburgh. I don't think there's a lot of concern in Pittsburgh, but with the loss of McCann, the loss of Tanev, and a little bit of chemistry changes here, CC ends up going to Edmonton. We'll see where Pittsburgh is once we're about the 20-game mark of the season. I don't know if they're still Stanley Cup contenders, but I do know you can't rule Sidney Crosby out ever. It's a mistake, so don't do it. San Jose, I don't perceive any pressure on San Jose. And I know that sounds weird because the GM's saying they should be a playoff team and all the players are saying the right things about not going through a rebuild. But I don't get the feeling that any fans in San Jose fandom or even media are thinking, well, this is a team that's going to be in the playoffs. It's a division you look at and say if there's a division they can compete for the playoffs in, it's probably the Pacific. But I think the expectation is they're probably going to be in this territory for a little while. Just go ahead and do that rebuild. Seattle, that's where the enthusiasm's really high right now. I belong to a couple of Seattle Kraken groups on Facebook, and the excitement is there. And there are those gatekeeping fans too that if you don't understand these rules of the game, I don't understand why you guys got a team. That's something Vegas has dealt with now for 4 years, going into year 5. And Vegas picked up on the rules pretty quick. So I would imagine Seattle, where they've had hockey teams for a very long time, they're going to pick up on the rules. And the excitement's there, and I'm happy for them. I really am. I think that Seattle's going to be a solid market for hockey because it's been a solid market for hockey for a very long time. They're just finally getting a crack at the NHL level, and they even put crack right in their name. So, right there, that works. They're cracking. Get cracking. There you go. See? They could have like some kind of egg advertisements. Get cracking. It works. But yeah, so the excitement's there. St. Louis. I'm kind of torn on St. Louis. I think the excitement level for St. Louis should be up in this region, but they're coming off of that first round loss against Colorado. I'm kind of tempted to put them right in here. Because, again, there are a lot of franchises that you can tell things are kind of right. Like it's not that there's panic in St. Louis or anything. I mean, they won the cup a couple years ago, but are people going to be concerned if they get off to that dreaded slow start? Sure, absolutely, likely, yes. So I'll put St. Louis right in the middle there. Tampa couldn't. And it's funny because Tampa, I'm tempted to put them over here and say fans don't care. However, because they've won back-to-back cups and their fan base wants that third straight Stanley Cup, the first team since the New York Islanders to win 3 straight. Tampa Bay, very happy right now. And that's despite the losses they've gone through, whether it's Johnson, Gord, Coleman, Goudreau. They've lost a lot. But this is a team that's always been able to replace whatever they lose, and I don't see any reason why Tampa won't be able to do it again. So very happy fans, I would think, in Tampa. Detroit. You know what? I'm going to put Detroit right here. People trust Yzerman. And I think they're very happy. Now, I would have them over here if fans didn't care about the wins and losses. I think in Detroit they want to see some progression. Not necessarily playoffs. You want that lottery win. But I think with Detroit, I think we'll see some progression. And I think fans are rightfully excited about the future of this franchise. This is going to be a fun team to watch 2-3 years down the road. Oilers could go either way. Yeah, Oilers could absolutely go either way. So I'm going to put them right in there. I'll stagger them here. Try to have some separation. The Oilers, it could go either way. I don't see any reason to think that. Again, if the Oilers have like a 5-game winning streak, we're winning the cup. 5-game losing streak, I don't understand what's happened. This team's an absolute disaster. So yeah, I really think that could go either way. Florida, I think Florida's rightfully excited right now. I do. So let's go ahead and move that up. So I call it friendly gianting these around. I think Florida's rightfully excited, so I'm going to put them up here with these guys here. And actually, because people are going to just go to the end. So I'm going to put a line across to show where the dividers are. There we go. Does that show up on camera? Kind of. Kind of, sort of. All right, well, we'll do it this way then. this one shows up. Friendly Giant would be so disappointed in me right now. Does that show up? Yes. Perfect. Fantastic. And then we'll just... I haven't got anybody next to Panik right now. That's insane. I do have a tire fire, though. And then, of course... There. We'll just leave that there. I'm not worried about it being straight. All right. So... That's better. So Florida, yeah, I think there's rightfully a lot of excitement about the Florida Panthers. I'd be tempted to put them up here, but there's been some changes in the offseason. We'll see how it goes. The LA Kings, honestly, I don't think there's a lot of pressure on the Kings. And I'm going to say that I think there's rightfully going to be a lot of excitement about them. So, I don't know. I mean, if they miss the playoffs, is anybody really going to be that upset? I really think we're in the dude territory here. Yeah, all three California teams. I don't think there's any... Maybe that's part of it. Maybe California is just not a lot of pressure. Fans are pretty cool. They're pretty chill about all of it. So I don't think there's a lot of pressure for LA to make the playoffs. Minnesota. Oh, Minnesota could go either way. Minnesota could absolutely go either way. So they signed Kaprizov. Everybody's happy. Everybody holds hands and hangs out together and skate around the ice together, and everything's wonderful. Or, you know, Kaprizov doesn't sign and Minnesota's trying to make up for that this year. I don't know that they could. And there would rightfully be a lot of questions asked at that point. So it really, a lot of this, I think, hinges on them keeping Kaprizov and then getting off to a good start and showing Minnesota fans, hey, we're trending in the right direction here. Montreal. Now, last week, when I did a preview for the Montreal Canadiens, and I stated that I wanted to see more consistency from Kotkaniemi. And there were Montreal fans saying Kotkaniemi will be fine. He's great. He's fantastic. He's awesome. Don't worry about a thing. He's going to be great. He's going to be a really solid top two center in the league. Then Carolina gives him an offer sheet, and then he becomes, oh, that guy's a bum. He hasn't done anything. The guy sucks. They're going to hate having him. Pfft. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. It's bizarre, but sports fans are like that. I try not to be, but that's kind of how that works. If Montreal doesn't have Kotkaniemi, if they don't match that offer, there's a hole in the middle. And there's a hole in the middle where they already were missing Danault. So that absolutely hurts the team. And they kind of let Danault go, I think, in part to try to save some money so they could pay Kotkaniemi and other young guys. And I think they envision him as being good. Because remember, Carolina tried to trade for him, and Montreal was asking too much. So by throwing the offer sheet out there, you kind of force Montreal's hand. So yeah, I do think that there's more panic likely right now with Montreal than there was before, which is too bad because when they kept Price and they kept Allen, I think that was a huge win. Nashville, I don't think there's a lot of pressure on Nashville. I'm kind of tempted to put him here. You know what? I'll put him here. And they could go either way. So we don't have anybody under panicked. Panicked isn't a thing this time around. And that's likely because this is off season. Off season, it's hard to say there's anybody that's really panicked and running around. I mean, like I said, you know, I've got Buffalo as the right now destroyer of worlds, everything's on fire kind of thing. But Nashville, it could go either way. But again, I don't think that if Nashville misses the playoffs, I don't think Preds fans would necessarily be that upset with that. I think there's been some erosion in their standing in the league, and it may very well continue this year. And it is a really good draft. They could definitely use a top line center to come up and replace either Johansson or Duchesne, whichever contract they're able to part ways with. So yeah, I have Nashville right in the middle. New Jersey, you know, there's some excitement with New Jersey. Again, nobody's panicked. So for New Jersey, I'm gonna throw them right here. Look, they picked up Bernier, who's a very good goaltender. He's a good 1B for them. So if Blackwood gets hurt, or if Blackwood needs nights off, or if he's not playing very well, Bernier's the guy who can handle it. And they picked up Dougie Hamilton, and I don't see them as a playoff team yet, but honestly, the excitement's there, and I'm not going to fight that. So yeah, nobody is in the panic area on the panic index. Closest you get is Buffalo, because again, it's the off season. So all right, there you go. The panic list, panic index. but there is a Destroyer of Worlds on there. So that's kind of fun. And 5 teams that I think are probably completely chill. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.